This is another installment. We right here in Times Square. Baba TV, you know it's fire every time. We're trying to test the temperature of the people. A lot is going on in the world, specifically in America, in particularly with black folks. So I want to just reach out to the people and just see what their perspectives are on certain things that are affecting us specifically. Donald Trump, okay? He's not even in office yet. We see white resentment. We see people saying, "Hail Trump."
Yes.
The alt-right.
Yes.
He's not even in office yet.
Right.
My perspective is that that's a green light for the supremacist movement and white rage, white resentment, and the white man's burden to step up and really set it off for us, because a lot of us don't understand where the anger comes from. We don't understand that white racism was a concept that came from white supremacists, right? That came from white supremacists for their own self-preservation, because they make up only 8% of the world population. Leon Trotsky in Russia is the one who came up in the 1940s with the term racism, even though we know the institution existed. Give the people, the viewership out there on Fire Every Time Baba TV, your perspective about the election and the shooting of the brother, okay, Joe McKnight, who was killed by the white person, the white supremacist.
First and foremost, shout out to Baba TV and the brothers and sisters that are watching this. My name is David Brown Jr. Peace and blessings to you all. I wish I knew my African name that I could drop that on y'all real quick, but I don't. And that's part of the master plan. Hello. As far as Donald Trump, first and foremost, this brother is not the first. He is the first of many presidents, racist presidents that we've had in our lifetime that we as black people have been traumatized by for many of years. So we have adapted to this in America. We will continue to adapt to this as long as we are living on this planet. As far as dealing with the brother from Russia, racism existed before him. Okay, so we can break that down and go back on many centuries ago when the Egyptians, all right, we had even in Egypt, we had class systems. So we can break that down on many levels. As far as the brother in New Orleans, it's just a modern day lynching. And we all know it's a modern day lynching. If you look at the government and the laws, the right to bear arms in Louisiana, that brother, if the white brother actually shot him in the car, he had a right to do that. Those laws were set up for us and against us from the very beginning. They knew what they were doing. So it's just another modern day lynching. And I'm sure you know, and my brother right here knows, that I'm just preaching to the choir. This is something that we all have known. So wherever you're going to go with this, and however we reach the next brother and sister, you already know this. We already been singing these songs for many years. So now, how do we fix the problem? That's the question. How do we change government? That's the question. So that's what I want to know. How do we get together and make sure that this is changed on the law books? Because now we're dealing with lawyers, and they're going to make mad money off this case. So that's the question for you, brother. How do we change this in the laws?
And that's a very good question, and I respect your perspective, and more so your question, because to give a perspective is one thing, but to ask a question means you're delving into the deeply rooted, critiqueful perspectives of which needs to be evaluated, put on the table, dissected, analyzed, and then we move from there. But my thing is this, because we've had answers a long time. I spoke earlier on 125th Street on Sarnetta, and I was saying, like, there's something, some people say that we broke the laws of God. That's why we're suffering. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree, but I'm going to say this. I believe that I'm not going to call it broke the law, but to an extent, we kind of turned our back on different kind of blueprints for liberations over the last 100 and something years that Martin Delaney, that David Walker, that Crumble, that Wilmot Blyden, that Marcus Garvey, many other people have laid a blueprint, and they've all specifically said that if we don't incorporate a certain paradigm for change, for autonomy, for economics, for culture,
Yeah.
then we will fail. And our straits and our situation would be dire.
Absolutely.
So they said we broke the laws of God so that we're suffering. I believe that it's synonymous, even if you look at it that way, that's another thing. I look at it because we didn't incorporate the blueprint and fuse ourselves with the blueprint and take the blueprint to the next level that we could in this generation if we had a sense of nationalism. Because of that, we're suffering.
Yes.
But you know what? Our suffering doesn't mean it's the over.
That's right. So
The first shall be last, and the last shall be first.
I agree with you.
We have a divine rendezvous with destiny.
Absolutely, I
So
agree.
with the Trump administration, the thing that I hope comes out of this is that solidarity, unity,
Yes.
reevaluation,
Yes.
reconsideration of our situations that we're facing, that we have to look at that.
It's an uphill battle.
So when we say a solution, because all solutions can't be and shouldn't be
Solved.
and couldn't be resolved in a few minutes of you can chime in too in a few minutes of a dialogue about certain specific situations that is affecting certain people and certain demographics.
Come on in here, Yankee fan. Yeah, of course I'm a Yankee.
Let me ask you a question.
What's the problem?
Well, there's a lot of problems in America. America was and when we say what is the problem, we should say what is specifically the problem, because there's so many problems. You're an American, right?
Yes, I am, sir.
Where are you from specifically? New York?
I was from New Jersey, born and raised, but live in South Carolina now.
I'm from South Carolina. West Columbia, Dixiana.
I'm from Greenville, South Carolina.
I went to school at North Greenville Junior College.
I'm so glad that y'all mentioned South Carolina.
Absolutely.
Because there is something that is happening where the Carolinas is on the forefront.
Absolutely.
Have you heard of Walter Scott
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
and his case with the officer
He's been,
that shot him?
Has been exonerated. Has been said.
Okay, so now the question is going to, because I want to feel the temperature of the people. You know, we can come and talk about our perspectives, but I like to gauge the people into what we're talking about to get a perspective to give to our viewership.
Sure.
The Walter Scott case, we see an officer shoot a person that's running in the back. He shot 8 shots. 5 of them hit him, one hitting his ear, the other one's hitting him in his upper back and his lower back. We see him on camera taking something and placing, which was a taser, right by him, and then radioing in and saying my life was threatened and all that. Okay? Now, there has been a situation where there has been an impasse. Impasse meaning that they couldn't come to a conclusion, and there was one person that said on this is what's going on, you can look it up. Well, it wasn't in my conscience to try to convict him without all the evidence, even though nowadays in 2016, 2015, the 2000 periods, we have the ability to see what happened, not just hear what happened.
Well, in the South.
What is your perspective on that case?
Oh, it's yours.
And do you think black people deserve,
to you in
hold on.
a few
And do you think black people deserve justice? And not only that, the right to be militant and the right to have their perspectives and sentiments heard.
You want me to go first or you want to go first?
I think, first of all, I'll say since you're just moving to South Carolina, right?
No, 24 years.
24 years. Well, you know that in South Carolina, it's all about the good old boy system. So I'm going to say that the good old boy system is still strong and standing. So it's standing, you know, they're still in power.
Roof did get a cheeseburger after he shot 9 black people in one of the most historic churches
Hold on.
in Charleston. Hold on. He got caught. No, hold on. This is what happened. Hold on. But let me tell you what happened. The difference is he wasn't considered armed and dangerous. When he got caught, he was apprehended. He wasn't just brought to prison. Somebody had to ask him, listen, hold up. For somebody to bring you Burger King, right? You could have bought somebody anything. You could have said, you know, listen, hold on. You could have said, listen, your appetite isn't the most important thing right now. Listen, let me finish. The appetite is not the most important thing. Us bringing you to justice as a wanted fugitive is, but when he got Burger King and brought there, okay? What is your perspective on these things that you see? You coming from the South, you coming from New York. You seeing what's happening from a Caucasian perspective for our viewership. We want to know, what is your perspective on the things that which we're talking about?
Well, you spoke a lot, and you asked a lot of loaded questions, and you asked a lot of leading questions, so thanks a lot for that. However, I will say that there is a percentage of white or black officers who have racial tendencies and who make mistakes and are terrible. There's no question. Just like we have politicians who are bad, and just like we have people who are bad spirited, okay? However, okay, I'll go back to a lot of things. There's a lot of black people in inner cities that are not educated, have a lot of problems, and we have to fix that because that is where a lot of black on black violence is. That's the bottom line, okay? And there's a lot of black people and white people who don't put their hands up when cops say stop. Now, a lot of these cops that are the instances you're talking about, I'd like to know what the percentages of that is. Because there's a lot of white cops that shoot a lot of white people incorrectly also, okay? And there's no question about that. But there's cops every day that get to apprehend criminals. And if those criminals don't put their hands up and stop, and when they run, that's a different story. Now, what you're talking about, those other two cases, okay, the guy in South Carolina who shot up the church, he should die. There's no question about it. Okay? No question about it. Okay, I don't think the police were there at the spot and that time and moment to shoot him like they would have shot other people.
You say other people like who?
Other white people who have been shot, who if you get a white person right now in front of anywhere here and draws a gun or a machine gun out, he's going to be shot dead by every white police officer out here.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because we're going somewhere in this dialogue. Now, in November, there's been a whole bunch of officers shot throughout the country by white people. By white men, right?
White men.
Did you know that?
And there's no...
Hold up, you haven't seen this on news?
No media coverage.
There's no media coverage. None of them are dead. None of you heard nothing about any of this. Go look this up.
Our media stinks.
Okay, so even if the media stinks, right? The fact of the matter that it happened and that the media is not putting it out there, but they would put out there criminalization or give the perception of hold on, listen, let me finish. Criminalization to other people. No, I'm not talking too much, but sometimes the truth is unpopular.
You tell me every time there's not a black guy who gets shot by a white person, okay? A white officer, there's not tremendous media coverage, okay? How much media coverage is the opposite way? I don't know.
I just gave you a perspective. I just said all kind of white people shot over 10 cops in November, and how come there's not the same media coverage? Hold up. How come you don't hear about this?
Cares about it, and white people are getting killed too.
Let me tell you something about white people, right?
What would you do with that?
Let me tell you.
We need police officers.
Let me tell you. You know what you need? You know what you need? You need law. Hold on. Know what you need? Let me tell you. Now bring you in. Because he's white. He's not going to understand. Let me tell you something. Know what you need? You don't just need police officers. You need enforcement and you need justice for that enforcement. So when there's not justice and there's not equality, then therefore, you know what I'm saying? There's an issue. Now see the coon. Let me show him. See the coon nigga. See how he ran off? He didn't even want to give us. I said, what about the white people that shot up all the cops? And there was no media coverage. He said that black people in the hoods basically are ignorant, and that's the reason for that. And the police presence there. That's what he basically alluded to. Well, let me drop some statistical facts on you. More white women and white folks in period are on government sector programs such as welfare, food stamps, Section 8, right here in New York, the Jewish community, the Hasidic community in Brooklyn. Okay? These are hard, raw facts. See, a lot of these ignorant redneck crackers and a lot of their slave-minded, ignorant, house nigga coon motherfuckers that would always defend crackers and run off like you just seen is predicated upon the lack of education on our behalf and also the lack of education on their behalf. See, the detriment is this. The lack of education on our behalf is more detrimental to us than the lack of education on their behalf because they're in a system that caters to, that supports, and that gives privileges to them. See, with us, they would take a handful of blacks, and I would tell people all the time, have you ever heard of Article 9? Yeah, Article 9 was a thing where white women, in the civil rights movement, where black people got out there and stood up on the front line. He said they were ignorant, uneducated. But here it is, a lot of educated and not ignorant people, even if I didn't agree with their theological perspectives, has stood up on the front line, put their lives on the line, okay, and a so-called civil rights objective or agenda. And guess who benefited from that? Whites, handicaps, homosexuals, everybody more so than the people who were the cannon power that were used to fight to bring into effect certain kind of causes that were supposed to benefit people for civil rights. You see what I'm saying? The public school program, because it says in the Constitution, there's a clause that education wasn't something that you was supposed to have and given. There were private sectors. There were things that, you know what I'm saying, when you got education, that it had to be funded or it had to be sponsored or it had to be paid for. The purpose of the public school system, because black folks, when they got into Congress, this is in the 1800s, look it up, black folks. Look it up, you crackers out there too. It was us that went and put in a certain clause in legislation that made public schools come into effect, that all people benefited from. So you have Section 8. You have welfare. You have housing developments, okay? And you have many other civil rights programs that us standing on the front lines, not ignorant, not uneducated black folks, that white folks always came out to stifle and stop our progress, but benefited from the cannon power that they used us for to do. You see what I'm saying? See, the coon that ran off, the reason why I had him on there, because I was trying to show y'all a dichotomy between certain things. I'm going to show you something, right? Black messiahs and Uncle Toms. I'm not trying to say we're black messiahs, but predicated upon the concept and the idea of what a messiah is, an anointed one to bring a message to liberate a people. Let's keep it like that. And then you had Uncle Toms. If you understand the history of Uncle Tom, Harriet Beecher Stowe, okay, is the white woman who wrote the concept, which is initially started as a play, okay, in the late 1800s, about Uncle Tom, which is based on a person by the name of Josiah Ford. Josiah Ford was a religiously indoctrinated black person who was a trustee on the plantation that he was from. And then when he started to go against white supremacy, he wanted to kind of have a resentment and therefore an uprising, okay, towards his masters. According to his own admission, he thought twice about it because he thought about Jesus and he thought about the consequences, and he reneged on his own objective that he was about to act upon. Okay? Harriet Beecher Stowe based his character and mythologized his concept and character in a story of Uncle Tom's Cabin based on Josiah Hanson. Josiah Hanson. Yeah, so check it out. Now, you got to understand the deep dichotomy between that concept. A people that's oppressed, a people that's in a plight for justice, we need to fight for liberation. Now, here it is, the white man has conquered people, has stole this land that they're on, that they call their land, and have the audacity to say, we got to make America great again. Basically, we got to make America white again. We don't want other people here, even if they're the indigenous people to this land. Blacks were here, so-called blacks, so-called people that were in the South Americas or Central America or Mexico that were here, that were contributors to ancient so-called America. Here it is, these people came here, conquered and stole this land under the idea of manifest destiny. The people that first came here were criminals, they were illiterate, they were motherfucking savages. So it is crazy that the cracker, he didn't want to hear that. You know why? Because truth is popular. He says, you're asking a whole bunch of loaded questions. No, I'm not, cracker. And I wish this cracker was here, because I'm not asking a whole bunch of loaded questions. And if they are loaded, they're loaded in reality, truth, and perspectives that need to be dialogued about, so that we can put things on the table. Because you know why? Many people have sat at tables and discussed things on a social issue, social dynamics, without black folks there. Because here it is, they were at the table, but we're on the menu. But see, they don't like strong black alpha male militancy, which I represent, which some people might not agree with. There's a lot of haters out there, because a lot of you coon niggas out there, you go against strong, dominant, and stand-up black men like myself. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but here the cracker is, and I wouldn't be surprised in the comments that a lot of these coon ass niggas will come at Sankofa. He should have let the white man smoke. He should have. No, you ain't got nothing to talk about. I'm gonna ask you questions and I'm gonna control the dynamic of the interview. You know why? Because they're used to being in power and in control, and their idea that is embedded in their collective subconscious is that you're supposed to be in your place, nigga. You're supposed to let me talk, nigga. You're not supposed to be as intelligent as you are, nigga. You're not supposed to be as combative or disagreeable with the system that we set up, nigga. So you seen, and the whole point of me even having this conversation, because I seen the brother out here in Times Square many a times, I already knew he was gonna run off with the coon, like a coon, with the cracker. But see, you gotta understand something. We have internal enemies and we have external enemies. The internal enemies, I call them the KKK, the Ku Klux Coons. That's right, coon with a K. The KKK, the Ku Klux Coons. A lot of these bourgeoisie, okay, niggas who have acquiesced and have basically stuck their head so far up the anal cavity of crackers where they don't even care to, want to see the plight of our people or make excuses for the injustice that we're dealing for, is a case in point that in which you've just seen. But that's why I like to come to Times Square. That's why me and Baba come here, because you know why? You gauge the temperature of the people, generally speaking, okay? Because here, you have a mixture of people from everywhere. So anywhere in New York, anywhere in the country, and anywhere in the world, you will meet people out here. So when you talk to people, you can definitely get an idea or the temperature of the perspective of how people think. But we're not finished, because we're going to travel around more and we're going to get more perspectives from the people. So stay tuned. Black Power.